Hi, I'm Ross Halcrow, known as Roscoe, Jib Trimmer on Platoon.
What is it that really sets a top level trimmer apart from the next level down, shall we say?
Oh, it's a pretty tough one, but you know, it's
modesty aside.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of us good trimmers around, and I guess it all comes down to, you know, we all started sailing when we were very young, and it was, you know, we had a good upbringing. We all, I think in New Zealand, a lot of us that are still some of the top older trimmers, you know, we all actually work together, and then we're racing against each other in other boats. And then, talk about the '95 America's Cup, and a bunch of us were on the same boat together. Like, the trimmers are Simon Daubney, Robbie Naismith, myself. We were all on board the yacht, and they were racing against each other still in the 52s. So it was competitive nature of really racing hard against one another as kids, and then just as it came along, a lot of us ended up racing together, and so we all knew our strengths and weaknesses. So it's an interesting question, but I think a lot of it just comes down to just, you know, a lot of time on the water, and it's a lot of sailing with good guys.
So you're the upwind trimmer on Platoon. I mean, the glamour in some ways is a downwind trimmer, going fast, and that's where arguably the bigger gains can be made. But where are the gains to be made upwind in terms of what you do?
The gains to be made upwind, to start off with, it all comes down to on the 52. It's not like sailing on some of the smaller boats where you've only, you've got the one jib to go through the range. We've got a number of jibs on board in the inventory, and we know, a lot of times we just race with one jib. We'll make that cool, right before the prep sequence, and just make it, if we think the wind's not going to change. Otherwise, we go with two jibs. So it all starts right back then
with jib selection and knowing which
jib selection. Yeah.
And how many jibs do you have, and what's the kind of range for each of them?
No, we have J1, which is, goes up to, push it up to 10 knots. J15 is sort of 8 to 15. The J2 is sort of 12 to 17, 18. We push it up to sometimes. And then the J3, 16 to 20, 21. And the J4, which is 19 plus.
Mm-hmm. But you, in essence, you're the kind of accelerator, and everything follows the jib. Is that right? Or in terms of the trim?
Yes, we work together. We're a team on board. Mainsail trimmer and jib trimmer. We are always communicating with one another on on our modes and our speed, and the relatives with the other boats. It depends on the wind range. We've got a slightly different setup on the Platoon than the rest of the fleet. We've Provetzers like us. We do the cross sheeting on the jib. So when it's when it's downrange, when we have the J1 up, and when it's marginal hiking, I'm inboard and I'm trimming to weather. So I've had a lot of communication with Harm driving the boat at that point in time, because I'm primarily keeping the boat going and easing, trimming, talking about where the bow is, talking about the boat speed. And then once I start hiking, I've got the jib set up. I've still got controls. I can still adjust the lead up and down for twist, in and out, for acceleration, and what mode we're sailing, whether it's a high mode or a low fast mode.
So are you deciding that mode, or
no, it's
tacticians deciding the mode?
No, we talk about the modes. We have Geordie Califat as the strategist, and John Costek is the tactician. So between those guys, we're talking about the modes with the other guys, how we want to sail, like especially off the starting line. There's a lot of times you will have a target boat speed of say 8.8 or something like that, but a lot of times we'll be sailing 8.2 off the start line, just trying to live in a lane or get to the guided weather. And we're fortunate we've got on our boat sails well in the down speed. So unlike our old boat. So this will be really pushed upon on our new boat for that sort of moding.
And in terms of the modes, how do you know you're into the kind of peak mode, as it were, for what you're looking for? Is that just by feel or by the numbers, or Geordie shouting at you?
Well, obviously, you've got your target boat speeds, which is your VMG numbers. So if there aren't any boats around, you're sailing your VMG. It's the velocity made good. It's the quickest way to the top mark. But when you're fleet racing, you've got other boats around you. This other race course you want to get to, or you want to live to go the way you're going. So you end up sailing these different modes, and these modes are there. They come from generally the afterguard tactician tells us where we want to go, and then Geordie a lot of times talks about the mode who give us a boat speed number to sail, and we try to sail that number to make the gains.
So what are we seeing here, Ross? Which jib is this?
This is a J15 and about 11 knots of wind. I think that's just this picture was when we were checking out the sail right before the 52 Worlds in Port Towers last year. So that's a race winning World Championship J15 right there.
So what's impressive about her? What's key to the shape?
You can sort of see I've got I'm not sure whether you can see on there the telltales on the leech.
Yeah,
but
bottom,
telltales up the leech, which basically shows how tight the sail's been trimmed. You've got some spreader marks on there on the top spreader and the mid spreader, which we can see we're outside of that, so the sail's not fully trimmed up at that point in time. So those white marks there are kind of like a max trim for a VMG sailing, right there. There's a lot of people that put a lot of different marks on the spreaders to help them trimming, which is a pretty good thing. I tend to just have the one mark on there, which is we generate that mark on that second spreader and the top spreader off Geordie's modelling data for a max trim, which is pretty accurate, and it changes a little bit from how the rig's set up with rig sag, etc. But it's more or less as just a little bit of a reference mark. But generally, when I'm trimming, I'm going off the telltales up the luff, and looking at the depth of the sail by eye, how much power I want on the sail, and then the leech.
And how much would the camber change over the wind range?
It changes dramatically. We'll see 3% camber change in the sail from when it going for power to blade it out. So we've got a lot of we have a lot of controls for the jib throughout the range. We've got obviously the head stay tension, which is the runner, which is more or less controlling the depth of the sail, and then we've got the up down lead, which controls the twists. Shuts the sail down, opens it up, and a lot of times sailing around in the Mediterranean, you have a asymmetric setup, tack to tack, because the wind is twisting as it goes up the rig. So, like for example, in Valencia or in a sea breeze, when you're sailing on the north course, just off the breakwater, you'll see pretty substantial wind shear, and it'll be further to the right, up high than down low. So someone will look at some pictures of a sail and go, "Wow, on starboard tack, the sail's super twisted and flat down low." And then it's the opposite on port tack. The sails, you got it powered up, you got the lead forward, you have the lead outboard, down, and so you see big differences in the setup.